So conceptually, the on-site drug test kits affords three things. It's going to save money. You go send somebody to Quester LabCorp, 35, 40 bucks. You do it this way, about 13. It's going to save time. If somebody goes to our lab, takes 3 or 4 days to get results. With this, you could interview somebody in the morning, have them take their drug test in 4 minutes, and they could be working that day, hypothetically, especially if you need to beef up and people are yelling at you, we need people now, you know. You don't have that 3 or 4 day in limbo stage. Thirdly, I mentioned it offers more control. If you have an employee who internally tests positive for opiates, like a painkiller, and does have an alibi, like he took his wife's hydrocodone because he couldn't sleep the other night and his back was killing him, at least now you can remedy the situation in-house, saying, you know what, we want to believe you, but we're going to give you a drug test in each of the next couple of weeks to make sure you're still not taking your wife's pain pills. The reverse scenario, if you send somebody to our lab, that guy gets thrown under the bus with the rest of the riffraff. He tests positive, they don't care what his excuse is, the insurance carrier might pressure you to fire that person, and it might be somebody you don't want to lose. The first page we're going to look at is performing the test urine. It says at the very top. And I'll go through this fairly swiftly. Item number 1, have employees remove anything from their pockets that you see as bulky, blah, 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 big jackets. The main thing here is you don't want to hang on to anybody's valuables at any time. No reason for it. You never want to be caught in a position where somebody says, I had 40 bucks in my wallet, where did it go? No reason for it. Step 2, open up the new test kit in front of them, identify the cup with the last 4 digits of their social security number. So, you could have a little Sharpie marker and just write right here the last 4 digits of their social security number. You don't put a name. Next, you give the person directions. You tell them to fill to the minimal fill line. See the little arrow on the side of the cup? It says minimal fill line. And you can open up the cup, and you don't have to. You can show them. You don't need very much specimen. The bottom is kind of indented here. You're only talking about 1.5 ounces of fluid or specimen. You tell the person, the donor, which we'll refer to as, do not flush the toilet or wash your hands until you get the test back. If you like, you can prepare the bathroom with a dark colored dye in the toilet and a bag covering the faucets to remind them, don't turn on the faucets. Every now and then you will get somebody who will just try to put some water in here. It won't work generally because the temperature strip has to read a certain amount. We'll get to that in a second. The blue colored dye in the toilet, it's just a deterrent. With DOT testing it's required, with this it's not, but you just put a tidy bowl thing in the toilet, color the water blue if you want. And you can have them bring the test to you or have them leave the test in the bathroom for you to pick up. It's up to you. But, you know, I would show the person going into the restroom, you know, it opens and closes like this. You go up to here, and before you leave the restroom, do me a favor, just click it shut. And when they come out, if they drop the cup, it's not going to spill. It's made to go through the mail if necessary. And also there's nothing to smell. To me, the worst thing about potty is the smell. And it's odorless when it's in here. So that's a good thing. But for the record, urine can't hurt you. Every now and then we'll get a call from somebody who did spill, hey, got underneath my Band-Aid and got on a wound. Just so you know, biologically, prisoners of war are taught by the Marines and the military, urinate on your laceration, it will actually disinfect it. So it has a medicinal quality to it. And of course you've seen the survival shows, and miners trapped underground, you drink your own urine, you'll survive. It's not toxic. So what I want to get through here, kind of get the emotional hat off and put the science hat on. It can't hurt you at all, even if you drink it. So don't freak out if you get it on your hands. If you want to wear gloves, that's fine. You get 100 gloves for $1 at Family Dollar. But that's your own prerogative. It can't hurt you, that's the main thing. If it could, every public pool would be closed in the nation.
It's true.
So, when the person is done, look at the temperature strip as soon as possible. That's that strip here, it reads 90 to 100 degrees. As long as it's lit up anywhere here on this spectrum, you're A-OK. Probably came out of their body. Now let me backpedal a little bit. When right before the person is handed the cup, you want them to sign two things. One is the middle of this chain of custody form. Pass some out here. The chain of custody form is something that's going to be filled out. I broke my pen opening up the box. Oh, there's a pencil. A pen. Thank you. No problem. These are for internal purposes only, so when you fill this out, bear in mind it's just going to, it's not going to leave your office.
So they only need to do the middle?
They sign right in the middle. It says signature a donor. Maybe you should take one of those. Right in the middle it says signature a donor. They're going to sign that before they go into the restroom.
They don't need to fill out the top part? Yeah.
You just fill out the top part, and it's just, you put your company name here.
Okay.
You don't even necessarily have to put the street address in the city if you don't want to. And then the rest is kind of self-explanatory, the donor's name, last name, first name. But the only thing the donor has to do is sign right in the middle there.
So we could even have these pre-filled out,
Absolutely. That's
the
what
top part?
Yeah, that's what I do when I'm on the mobile drug testing team. I have all the people's names on it, or top, you know, it makes it go quick. And also have the donor initial and date, one of the security seals. They're in this little packet which lays on top of the test cups. So they're going to initial and date one of these security seals as well. Now we're reading off of step 4 where they come out of the restroom and you check the temperature strip. 90 to 100 degrees, anywhere on there is fine. If nothing is lit up on here, you don't have to accept the test. Next you take that safety seal, take this plug out of the top. I'll have everybody do it. Take that little plug out of the lid of the cup. I have to twist it and yank it up. And that safety seal, security seal, is just going to drape right over the lid of the cup as soon as the person comes out with a specimen in it, and you check the temperature and that's A-OK. This just shows the donor you mean business. Nobody's going to mess with it. Nobody's going to lift up the lid and add anything to it. Now this plug, I'm not going to have you depress it. It also will render all these cups useless, unless if you want to do it, and that's kind of costly.
Yeah, don't do that.
So you would take this, and who wants to volunteer to push it in? See how it feels. There you go. You position this little plug over the round opening on the side, and with both hands squeeze in real hard. And you just got to balance that plug over that round opening.
Oh, that was easy.
And that's it. That starts the test. That deposits the specimen to the test strips below. And that's right, the plug just comes out and it's garbage now.
So Scott, you're saying basically you put the security label on the top.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do that first?
Well, the thing is you got to take the
After.
plug out.
Well, that's, I mean, what I'm saying is that after you take the plug out,
Yeah, then you put security seal on.
then put the security seal, then put this in?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Security
this deposits the specimen to the test strips below. Now what you can do, and the cups are still good, is take this sticker and just peel it off the back. And after we're done, you can put the sticker back on. It doesn't matter whether the sticker's on or not, you know.
But that can hold the thing in the top, because they're a little bit.
Yeah, but everybody put the plug back in the lid, just,
Yeah.
you know, so it's there. If you have a lose this plug, there's nothing magical about it. If you have a Sharpie marker, or like this, you could use that as just a plunger. So, 5 columns here, and you see the abbreviations right here at the top in the light gray letters. COC is cocaine, AMP is amphetamine, MAMP is methamphetamine, THC is marijuana, and OPI is opiates. You could look at the recording form. There's an answer key on there. So you see at the very top is amphetamine. And each of you could just take that and just put a tick mark or circle next to each panel. So circle next to, put a mark next to amphetamine, and 5 down from that. I got your pen, sorry about that. put a mark next to amphetamine, put a mark next to cocaine, 5 down, put a mark next to marijuana, mark methamphetamine, and mark opiates. Those are the 5 pounds of drugs the state of Florida and everywhere federal require that you test for. If you want to go over and above the call of duty, that's up to the business themselves. Don't think just because oxycodone is below opiates that it doesn't pick up oxycodone. It does, under a standard level. We have some businesses like visiting nurses and home health care where the employees are arm's length of the pills every day. And they want something actually a little bit more vigilant than the standard. And oxycodone is one of those panels which is isolated because it's so popular. But yes, it will. The opiates will pick up everything, all your painkillers from codeine to heroin, to Oxycontin, hydrocodone, to everything in between. Your amphetamines will pick up all your uppers, and Adderall, some of these anti-anxiety things, Ritalin.
So in that case, if it picks up like that and they're on Ritalin, do they just produce a prescription for it, or is that?
Yeah, and this is something that, get into the psychology, when you're giving a person the cup to go in the restroom, 99% of the time, if they're on a legal prescription, they happily volunteer as they're going in. Oh, just thought I'd let you know, Stephanie, I'm on Percocet, I got a bad back, I was in a car accident 2 months ago. They'll volunteer, they're happy to do it because it's legal. Now when somebody comes out of the restroom and, oh, your test did not come out the way we would have hoped, it's showing positive for opiates, forgot to tell you I'm on a prescription. That's a huge red flag. You forgot to tell me you're on a prescription, you're going to take a drug test right now. But you always kill them with kindness and just say, you know what, not a problem. Show me your prescription. We're all good. And usually the person doesn't say, I don't have a prescription. They usually say, I will go get it for you and be right back. It's in my car, glove compartment, they go out there and then you see the car drive out of the Or they'll say, I'll be by first thing tomorrow before lunchtime, and you just don't see them anymore. Now if they do come in and say, hey, here's my prescription, here's my pills, you check the first name and last name, check the date, make sure it's this year, you still have no obligation to hire that person. Our job is just to reveal information about that person you may not know. Some companies, you know, if a person is going to be a desk job and not even greeting the public, you know, hey, the person's on that, they could probably function. If they're driving a forklift, just use common sense there.
These guys are on construction sites using equipment and stuff.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I mean, because you know, to get around this, all the prescription, they have a little sticker on there, no operating of heavy machinery. Sometimes the sticker falls off, sometimes they take it off. You know. So after you push the plug in, lines will start appearing next to the C and next to the T. So if you're looking at the back of the test cup, there's a bunch of C's and T's. And you could look at your page that says result interpretation. It's in your little stack there. The result interpretation has the answer key, but also on the back of the cup. You see at the top there, the sticker. If you have a line next to the C and a line next to the T, then the person's clean, the test is negative. If you have a line next to the C and nothing next to the T, the person is positive for that corresponding drug above. No lines is considered invalid. You'll probably never get that unless if the person puts a few drops in the specimen cup, doesn't even come close to the minimal fill line, and it just wasn't enough to read. So the control line, C, I also say did the test run or complete successfully. And the T is the test line. The illustration here shows, and this is the #1 question we get, sometimes the line is very, very faint. The lines will appear gray. And even if the line is very, very faint, it still counts as a line, which means the person is clean and they're still off to work they go. That's the #1 question we get. Scott, we could barely make out a very, very faint line. It's okay, let them go to work. This is not, and I told Stephanie initially, terribly different than a Walgreens or Eckert's pregnancy kit. You guys have ever used those.
Nah.
But the line that appears, sometimes it's very faint. Even if the line is very faint, it doesn't mean you're almost pregnant. You know, so this is kind of the same mantra, you know, it doesn't mean the person's almost on drugs. Now, if the person tests positive for something on there, and to backpedal a little bit, to let you know the different panels, amphetamine has a lot under it, you know, so does meth. You know, ecstasy will appear.
Oh, it says it in
Okay. Anybody heard of the new drug Molly? It's kind of pure form of ecstasy that some of the young folks are using. That in certain amounts will appear as well under meth or amphetamine. If somebody says the results are wrong, then take this one page out that says if you have a positive test, the 2 questions you must ask. And I'm going to start right where it says begin with. And
Do
this
you guys
is
have that page?
and
It's-
yep, and right where I put a mark next to there, it says begin with, your test is not coming out the way we would like it, not coming out the way we would have hoped. It's showing positive for such and such. It's not even accusatory, and coming out the way we hope. You have 2 options. You, the donor, have 2 options. The first option is, if you refuse, and that's the word we like to use, refuse to send this sample out for GCMS confirmation lab testing, then the sample will not be sent to the lab for confirmation. A refusal is considered a positive test. You can then deal with that employee or new hire as your policy instructs. Have them initial someplace on the form or chain that they refuse to send the specimen out for confirmation. Example to write on the form, refuse to send out sample for confirmation initial by the employee. You could use this same recording form right at the very top here, refuse to send out for confirmation, and get that person to initial. If the person doesn't want to initial, you just take detailed notes of the way the person walked out. Person says, I ain't signing nothing, I'm out of here. You just write, person said, ain't signing nothing, out of here. Simple as that. Half the time, the people won't sign it. No big deal. Not at all. Choice number 2 is the donor can say that the test is wrong. God bless you. And then that donor has the right to have that same specimen retested. So it would be sent out for GCMS confirmation or lab testing, where a medical review officer will review the specimen and blah, blah, blah. 3 or 4 days, you can get the results online. We give you a supply of FedEx envelopes with prepaid shipping labels. And also in the same package as this, and this may not have arrived yet, these come separately in a large FedEx envelope, and they're all folded up, and there's prepaid shipping labels in there, and there's also chain of custody forms. And here's a copy of one of those chain of custody forms that may or may not come in yet. You can pass them around. These, I like to refer to, this is just like a cheat sheet is what it is. For people that have never seen one before, never filled one out before, you could just pretty much use this as a cheat sheet. Again, it might be a year before you have to fill one of these out. These are only filled out if A, the person tests positive, and B, they say the results are wrong. And if they want it retested, the donor has to sign right in the middle there where there's a circle around the X and a signature of donor. If they don't want to sign it, they don't want to really have it retested. And there's specific instructions on how to package it up. Here's this. And again, we say keep these paper clip to the cheat sheet and keep that on top of the supply packet of supplies that have the FedEx envelope, prepaid shipping label, and all that junk. And that way, if somebody does say the results are wrong, everything is right there, neatly, concisely to send out. It is not a ticking time bomb. If it's Friday afternoon and you got 4 or 5 things of priority before you go home and the FedEx man's already gone, not a big deal. You could take it and put it in a bag and put it somewhere. It's not, the drugs in it are not going to dissipate over the weekend. If it gets sent in Monday, fine. Tuesday, fine. Wednesday, fine. It's still going to test fine. We've had incidents where on land surveying sites where the guy lost it and it was rattling under the floorboard of the pickup for 3 weeks.
Oh.
And you know what? It didn't spill, and it still tests correctly. So again, you know, you package it up and have the FedEx man take it out. You are all given a, you could check out the results online as well. There's a password and everything. I don't know if I sent it to you yet.
I'm not sure.
You probably hadn't come in yet, but it's your temporary password is check. I think it's ABC123, and it's just a temporary one on there, something innocuous like that. And your user ID is actually just an email address. It's yours on there. But I'll check on that.
Likely, if that happens though, if somebody does test positive and they want it sent out, since I've been here, it's happened one time with a drug test that we had. They're like, no, that's wrong. Turned out it was right, but you know, they had it go through this whole thing. But it's only happened to me once. We've done a lot of drug tests. Anytime that does happen, you can work with me on those things, and we'll work together on making sure.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great idea.
And
Up with Stephanie.
now you can educate the person who just tested positive on what a GCMS test is. And let me read at the top of this page here, where it says, remember a few things, you're just the collector, you're not the all-knowing, we don't want to position you to be judge and jury or the villain, ever. Item 2, you have the use of a GCMS confirmation test, which is the lab test. It stands for gas chromatography mass spectrometry. It's a mouthful, you don't have to
Just
remember.
say that out loud and they'll cry.
Yeah, they'll cry later.
And it'll not be
It's like the CSI of drug tests. It will tell you everything. It'll tell you 2 nights ago what green vegetable you had and distinguish between peas and green beans, all from your urine.
Wow.
So it'll say everything about you. So if somebody says,
Asparagus last
hey, the reason yeah, that's ammonia smell. But if somebody wants it sent out, you say, and they're like, oh, well, you know, I didn't smoke pot, but in the back seat people were smoking, the car windows are rolled up. Okay, well.
They hotboxed it.
Yeah. They, the tests are 50 nanograms per milliliter of urine. 50 nanograms of THC per milliliter of urine, which in 1988 the government established as a threshold. You hit this threshold, we're going to count that as you ingested. If you have some like Weisenheimer that says, well, I was in my car, you don't understand, it was raining, everybody was smoking but me, the windows are up, and it was like Los Angeles in my car. Is it conceivable if a person can reach that threshold? Absolutely. But at that point, the government assumes that person probably smokes pot. So you could let them know that once they hit that level, chances are they'll hit it at the lab too. The other is like opiates. You remember, for those older people like me, the Seinfeld episodes where Elaine tested positive for poppy seed muffin, bagel, or shit. You remember that? It's a rerun. It's kind of clever. Is it conceivable that you could eat some poppy seed muffins and test positive for opiates? Yes, it is. But you would need to have a lot, an awful lot, something unreasonable like a dozen or something. Bagels. Person eats that much, you don't want to hire them.
Smoke poppy seeds. Sit around and eat them.
But if the person says, hey, that's my story, I'm sticking to it, it was the poppy seeds that made me test positive for opiates, hey, if that's your story, stick to it, but when we send it to the lab, it will tell you how many poppy seeds you ingested and whether or not there's anything in there. And sometimes they'll back off, oh yeah. Because when they get to the point, oh yeah, this test is BS, you know, where do I sign? Then they'll ponder whether or not to sign this chain of custody form. It's all screwy things go off somebody's head, you know. Let me see, they're willing to let me go anonymously. I did do drugs. Do I want to sign this and then test positive at the lab and suffer any consequences? And that's why most people want to leave. It is possible, though, that these could have a false positive indication. There are certain brands of cold inhalers. You have it, and if you're tested within 24 hours, you might test positive for meth. Got a call this summer on the situation. People called me up, they said this little old lady applying tested positive for meth. Not the Breaking Bad type scenario where grandma is testing positive for meth. I said, well, yeah, send it in. She doesn't sound like, you know, a likely candidate. And sure enough, she was able to afford, yeah, I did have some cold medication. So you will get that, but it'll only be like a 2 or 3% of the time. But that's why the system works, because it validates the people who are guilty and clears the people who are clean. Now the whole drug testing system, whether it's at our labs or done in-house, the in-house is actually not just more practical, but it's more difficult to cheat. When people get sent to our labs for collections, they got time to prepare. You know, they could call you, hey, I'm on my way to the lab, I'm calling my buddy on my cell phone, meet me at 7-Eleven across the street, here's my driver's license, go take the test. If the person is the same gender and looks anywhere like the person, sometimes, and I shouldn't say this negative about our lab, but sometimes a person glances at the driver's license and they're not like the police profiling the nose features and everything, and it may be the wrong person tested. Sometimes the person has time to prepare and they'll get a condom and fill it up with somebody's clean urine, strap it to their inside of their thigh, hopefully stay in it warm between 90 and 100 degrees, and then release it at the appropriate time when they're given a test. The nice thing about this is that it generally removes that element of them having time to prepare to cheat. So it's kind of nice there. And it's also like with randoms. And here I'm going to get to the different reasons to test. Any questions yet right now? I mean, like I say, everybody's got my business card with cell number. If you think of a question tonight, next week, next month, just give me a call myself. I'll answer it. That's why I gave them out. I didn't give my card out for promotion. It's because my cell number's on there. Everybody look at this. Everybody got one? Now again, to fill that out, that's for internal purposes only. Most of the stuff is pretty clear how to fill it out. Name, address, city. Like I say, this is internal, so the address doesn't need to be filled out every time. The thing that does need to be filled out correctly is this cheat sheet thing. If something is sent into the lab for a retest, they're fussy about this.
Question, this stuff at the top, the collection site and company name, and then name, is that the collector's name?
No, that's just your company name.
Yeah, underneath it though, name.
Both. I mean,
Okay.
technically collection side I just leave blank.
Okay.
Then you get to the donor, social security number, driver's license number, employee ID number, whatever you want to use. Donor, last name, first name. Reason for the test. This is what I wanted to get to. You have different categories here. Number one is pre-employment. Pretty self-evident what that is. That's a requirement for your 5% drug-free workplace credit. Everybody gets drug tested who's hired. Next is random. I'm emphatic here, you know, you don't have to randomly drug test everybody to have an effective drug-free workplace program. However, if you never do randoms, not going to have an effective program. The employees are not completely stupid. They're going to realize, hey, I'm here, I'm already passed, I'm done, I'm not going to get drug tested again. If you were, you know, statistics show if you randomly drug test 20% of your workforce every year, assuming you don't have any underlying problems of drugs, the other 80% will typically take notice and start behaving themselves, thinking that they're going to get selected next. To remove you from having to select, we have a free service, and you could write this email address down just for the record. It's Douglas, D as in David, O-U-G-L-A-S, or you could even use my email on my business card, is fine too. But what you want to do is just send in a complete employee spreadsheet and just give us marching orders. Please pick 10 names, 3 alternates or whatever. And the alternates are to replace people who are on vacation, out ill, not working that day. And that way you're never in a position where somebody's like, the reason why you picked me, you never liked me. You know, you're prejudiced, you're short, you hate females. You know, you're never going to have to say anything like that. The person wasn't picked by you all, say the people got generated out in Tampa, computer selection, so it removes you from that. So the randoms is important. There's certain things that an effective drug-free workplace yields. One is Nicole Long, who's a great insurance agent. They usually breathe it's going to lower claim activity and accidents, which is true. Another thing it will lower is turnover, which HR people like to hear. You know, the less turnover, the less stress they're going to have. And the fact is, if you have a higher moral fiber amongst your staff, there's less likely to be job jumpers that after like 4 months they just need a change. You know, you won't get that as often with people who are not on drugs. Turnover. The other is misconduct. Somebody's jonesing for their pill. You know, short-tempered, whatever. You can have less people who have fighting and they're contrarian, temperamental. Another thing it yields that most people forget is less petty theft. Every job has something worth stealing. $10 from the cash register, cleaning materials, a power tool, anything. There's always something worth stealing anywhere you work. Again, if you have a higher moral fiber amongst your employees, meaning that, you know, if they're breaking the law in one area, taking some illegal drugs, they're likely to be more cavalier about breaking the law in another area. I don't leave with this hammer when I go home. You know, not return it. Anything. And again, an effective drug-free workplace program, random testing is part of that. Next one, reasonable suspicion and just cause. This could save a world of hurt. You know, it's kind of the honor system, but your insurance underwriting company trusts you to drug test an employee who's just acting weird, slurring their speech, dragging their feet, seeming to not comprehend anything, just the obvious signs, you know, red eyes, whatever. But always get another report or eyewitness. Don't go by one person's testimony. Try to say, okay, so Joe over there is not acting well, and the supervisor could take care of it. They could observe, tell somebody else, observe. Let's get two people to agree that the person's having these uncharacteristic behavior things going on. And you knew that from your past.
And reasonable suspicion, just one other thing to note with that, if that does happen, never say, hey, you seem like you're on drugs. Number one, always call me first, so we can just talk through it. But number two, we just have to make sure that the person is fit for duty. That's what we always say. Just need to make sure that you're fit for duty. And he's exactly right. You and another eyewitness, usually another manager, not another person on a team. It wouldn't be appropriate to go to a team member and just say, hey, your buddy there, you think he's acting weird, but his supervisor, it would be appropriate.
Yeah, and you know, the whole mantra above this drug collection and enforcement of the program is not for you to be like the police.
Right.
It's for you to be their friend. And I love the psychology that goes along. Well, we're drug testing you, but we're drug testing everybody. We want to make sure that nobody else hurts you.
Yeah.
You know, that whole thing that we're concerned about your safety, we love you, we need you here healthy, that whole theme resides over the whole drug testing process. You're not like the police where you just, you know, not concerned and just looking to get somebody in trouble. So that's huge. That's what we do. And the person who says, you know what, I don't really give a crap. What this person does on the weekend has nothing to do with me. It doesn't affect me. Very shallow thinking. They got to consider the person on Sunday afternoon that does all kinds of drugs, and then he comes into work Monday and he's kind of bleary-eyed, and then he runs into you with something, a forklift, or his car in the parking lot, or anything. Well, now that he's broken your leg, does it affect you now, what he did yesterday? So these people that breathe that just aren't thinking. That's the best way to put it. It does affect you, especially when you get hurt by that person's lack of judgment, or could be a physical error because he's just not real, you know, coordinated and alert that day with his reflexes. Reasonable suspicion and just cause. That's it. Post-accident, this is kind of a misnomer that needs explaining. Better yet, post-incident. somebody gets in an accident or hurts themselves, you let them get drug tested at the treatment facility or at a collection facility like our Quest or LabCorp. That's fine. Where this might come into play, which has helped a lot of companies, and my background, I was working for an insurance underwriter for 19 years, I'd be reading some loss runs from our claims supervisor, and you'd always see something on there. Date of accident, September 20th. Date of reporting, September 29th. What the hell went on for 9 days? Why wasn't this reported? Sometimes it's a legitimate excuse. Sometimes it's somebody who slipped and fell and said, hell no, I'm not reporting it now. I did some drugs yesterday. I don't want to be exposed. I'm going to bite my lip and for the next week grin and bear it. And then, hey, supervisor, remember a week ago, last Tuesday, I fell? Didn't think I was hurt, but now I need medical attention. He might have just gotten over on you, cleaned himself out. So it's not a mandate, but this is just to prevent you from getting wrapped with claims that shouldn't exist, perhaps. And, oh, you slipped and fell or something, or I saw you hit the floor pretty hard there. Just kill him with compassion. Hey, you're valuable here. We need you here healthy. By gosh, tomorrow morning you might wake up and you might be in pain. Your ankle could be swollen. It's just our policy to drug test you now, just in case you have to report it as a claim tomorrow. Every now and then you'll have somebody that refuses. Refusal counts as a positive. Then a lot of chips are in your favor then. It's not necessarily going to do anything for the claim these days, and I don't want to say everything's wrong with society today in claim activity. It's now very important more than ever to try to stop the claims before they occur. Yeah. To make a long story short, the best way to say it is 15 years ago, not as many stuff was getting paid when somebody tested positive for drugs. Now, a lot of times it's getting paid, I don't know why, heading towards socialism or something, but it's getting paid when a lot of times the claim would have been denied because the person tested positive. For your information, there was something in the mid-90s where you had the drug test workplace policy, somebody tests positive, the claim gets denied, and then it got modified a couple years later. It has to be cause and effect between the lack of sobriety and the injury. If you're sitting down on your lunch break at a construction site eating a sandwich and somebody knocks you in the head with a board, the fact that you were stoned did not contribute to that accident. That's the spirit of the law that came around in 1997 or 98. It's now been misconstrued to, oh, the person fell down the stairs. Oh, anybody could fall down the stairs. That could happen to anybody. And just because he's on drugs doesn't matter. It's kind of gotten a little bit twisted and more out there. So the spirit of the law has been kind of broken. But having that ability to test right after an incident can really help y'all. And also, if you nip one in the bud and people observe it, you're going to have less copycat crap going on. Where, oh, that person faked that, home now, whatever, collecting unemployment. That sounds good for me. If you're able to just provide some deterrent, then people won't copycat the same thing. Next thing on there, return to duty. If somebody leaves your all more than 90 days and comes back to work like it's a seasonal job, they need to be drug tested like they're a new employee again. 90 days is the threshold. And the last one, follow-up, may never come into play, but if you hire somebody or rehire somebody who just got out of rehab, your insurance carriers generally require them to be drug tested once a month for a whole year because relapse is so common and problematic. So that's follow-up.
Question for you, Scott. So, if someone's gone on leave, like for example, we just had somebody go out on FMLA because they had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
When they want to come back after 12 weeks, do we need to drug test them?
Yeah, it's more than 90 days. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. More than 90 days, I don't think that
Well,
they...
it's not more than 90 days. It's right at 90 days.
Well,
FMLA leave is 12 weeks.
yeah, it is right at that. Yeah, I don't...
Actually, you know what? I take that back. She will be working a few hours a week handling the time and attendance program will not.
Well, that's okay.
Right, but I mean,
So
other
she'll still be
people-
working a little bit, but other people...
But it's the 90 day is the threshold for FMLA, so I would assume if they return by their date, then it wouldn't be a problem.
Correct. And it's up to you. I mean,
It's just the
Yeah.
discretion.
It's kind of splitting hairs and everything. It's the 89th day or the 91st, but 90 is the general thing. And some companies are much more vigilant and want to drug test anybody for any excuse, and that's fine. You know. Collection name, you put your name there. This is important, that you read the specimen temperature within 4 minutes. That's the last part on section 1 or step 1. It cools off.
Yeah, I would say when you go to send somebody, or when you notice that they come out with their specimen or something, set a timer on your phone or something if you're not able to do it right that second, so you don't go over that mark.
And yeah, because it does
Something that'll be
take
able to
several
remind
minutes.
you.
Signature of donor, they've already signed that. On step 3, I think I X'd out the entire left-hand side. You don't have to fill out anything there. I don't even know if we still sell them, but color-coded tests for stuff, that's too difficult to learn and interpret. It just creates confusion and headaches. You know, is this a light yellow or a dark yellow? Is this orange or red? Can't deal with it. The drug names are listed there. Y'all didn't get an alcohol test, did you?
We didn't.
Okay. Collector certification, you sign there. The tests are FDA approved, CLIA waived. CLIA means Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendment. The tests have a certain adherence for dependability, reliability, and reliability, and accuracy. That's it. But yeah, they are extremely accurate. And they're at a threshold that's fair. Drugs, the pot will stay in your system the longest. Probably people know that. You all know that. It's common knowledge. With this, probably about 10 to 14 days. You read the books about it. It says the urine can anywhere from 5 to 30 days. 5 if the person's wiry, the metabolism's through the roof, and whatever. Low body mass, fat. Could be as much as 30 days if the person is very sedentary and morbidly obese and smokes a lot. I don't know. But it's 5 to 30. It's usually 10 to 14 days. Cocaine. Somebody tests positive on here for cocaine. Safe to say they did it in the last 2 or 3 days. Pills, amphetamines, and painkillers and everything. I should say after 7 days or more, it's out of their system. They could make these as aggressive as they want, but this is a guideline established where all the levels were in 1988, and that's that. Questions?
So let's say we have our drug test and we do it, someone comes back positive or negative. Regardless, the person doesn't want to do anything with it. With that test, do we need to save anything, or is it just throw it
You
away?
just throw it away.
Okay.
You know, it's been documented here, you're done. The procedure, to put in different words, the appeal is built into the procedure. The person doesn't appeal the results 3 days later and say, you know, I think that was wrong. You're appealing it for them. And that thing, the 2 questions you must ask, you know, the overview is, you want to send in or not? You want it retested or don't you? You're beating them to the punch. You think it's wrong? If you think it's wrong, sign here, we're sending it in. If you don't want to sign here, you're admitting that it's correct. And you could actually, or not even admitting it's correct by, sorry about that, by them saying they don't want it sent in after it's positive, they're refusing to complete the testing process. They're actually electing not to have it sent in. Perhaps to save their own skin, and they're getting nervous, you know. They don't want to go on record. And if this can, is that still on?
Yes.
Oh, well, I'll say it anyhow, but the government won't see this. But the HIPAA and all that stuff, put it this way, a buddy of mine who works for the Department of Defense, you know, they found something when he was 17 years old. It probably should have been under secrecy. But if there's some 25-year-old kid who tests positive, my personal opinion, if you're applying for some job of a certain clearance, all bets are off. They're going to find out that crap if they go to our lab and it gets documented. They find out one way or another. So, you know, sometimes it behooves a person to just leave rather than have something documented on their record at a Quest or LabCorp that they failed a drug test at one time. That's just me.
For us, for our purposes, it's really important that every single drug test that you do, we get this form for. Whether it's positive or negative, and whether we hire them or whether we don't, we need you to send us this every time you do a drug test.
And the yellow copy could go to the donor. Sometimes they want it, sometimes they don't. It comes in notebooks like this. The notebook sits on top of the drug test kits inside the box. And I guess you just explained it. You want it sent to you. There are some people actually that leave them all in the notebook like this.
Yeah, you can cam scan it to us. Have they gone over cam scan with you guys? You're more than welcome to do that. You can keep it for your records. It's just we need a copy of that so that we can put it in their file for every single employee or applicant, I should say.
And understand what you're doing. You know, it's just not, you're just not helping, you know, Alpha Environmental. You're helping the town you're working in, or the county. Our company has gotten letters from people who have gotten exposed a year or a year and a half after they got found out. Thank you letters saying, I'm glad I was exposed when I was. I ended up either in jail or dead. You could be doing a service to a family you don't even know. So understand what you're doing is very, very noble and honorable. You could be saving an auto accident from somebody falling asleep behind the wheel because you're exposing them today, and next week he would have run into a family of 4 and killed some kids. It's very, very profound what you're doing. I used to be in prison ministry for 5 years. Half the prisoners in there were in jail because they did something they ordinarily would not have done, hadn't it been for alcohol or drugs. Now they're behind bars. A lot of nice guys. When my going through all the jails every Tuesday, wasn't like TV, like they're a bunch of caged animals. I saw a lot of people like, crap, that could have been me when I was 22 years old. You know, wrong time. So, you know, getting people off of drugs, you know, it's a great punchline and everything, and pot's getting more popular and all that, but, you know, the consequences they sometimes cause is not good, and they are breaking the law. So when somebody doesn't get hired, you know, you can feel bad for them on one hand, but know that you're doing somebody else a favor. So.
And you're not the judge and jury, just like he said. So if something comes out not the way we want it to, they have the option of sending it in. You're not the bad guy. The lab can be the bad guy.
Right. And that came up a lot of times where, hey, I don't know if I feel comfortable about drug testing my friend here. You know, what if I have to tell them they're fired? Never have to do that. So, you know, they say it's wrong, sign here, send it in. Hey, it could be wrong. And you could agree with them. Oh, you think it's wrong? Hey, maybe. You know, GCMS test, though, is usually right. Did you take any cold medication that it could have affected it? You know. And if they say they did, it'll appear. You know, you can't outlie the lab. They're going to tell everything. So you just want to say, you know, you can lie to me and I'm naive. But whatever the lab comes up with, that's gospel, and that's going to nail you. So come clean now. So, I guess that's it.
Any other questions from you guys?
How does it handle, sometimes we get test results back and it just says dilute, if they drink too much water or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Good. I can't believe I overlooked it. This is one way our labs get screwed all the time. Somebody would be on their way to a Quest lab, they stop at McDonald's on the way and drink enough water to drown a camel. And they urinate a couple times, by the time they get to our lab, they're on their 3rd urination. Just like I say, it comes diluted. With this, and I should have mentioned it, you will have the occasional person that says, you know, I can't go to the bathroom. I just can't. Okay, sit down there. Here's a pot of coffee, here's some iced tea, here's some bottled water. Give them anything they want to drink, as much as they want. But don't let them leave for an hour, relieve themselves, and then come back. No matter how much they consume right then, it's not going to dilute their initial urination. So you want to capture their first urination, even if they're staying there for a long time. I do have companies, and this is your own policy, I've had companies saying, and this is kind of unreasonable, but you got 5 minutes. You know, but I have more companies saying you got 30 minutes or an hour or something. I don't know of any companies that had it over an hour. You can't go to the bathroom after an hour drinking a bunch of bottled water, just a little bit. you might be hiring somebody with a medical issue.
So they pull it over on the lab because they know they're going to take the test.
Yeah.
So they drink a bunch and then pee a bunch, and
Yeah.
The
then
difference.
so it hasn't been in them very long.
The difference here, though, is I think the fact that we're doing it on spot. That's what's going. They're not going to be able
Right.
to prepare.
Exactly,
Right.
that's what I'm saying. They're not gonna know. So when they're coming for an interview, like we had talked about, you know, you could interview everyone in Columbia, for instance, in one day that's gonna be a labor hire. You tell them that they're coming for the interview. Don't mention that, you know, we're gonna do drug testing right after if we're interested in hiring you. They don't need to know that. That way they're not able to fill the condom up and put it on their leg.
Right.
And then when they get there though, you know, you do the interview, you're like, I liked you, you, and you. We're gonna go ahead and have you fill some paperwork out, and we're gonna be administering the drug test. Is there any reason why? What was the actual wording that you said?
On the interview?
Is there any reason
Yeah,
why?
yeah, you could just, because this is where I'm really dotting the I and crossing the T. Technically, you're not allowed to give the person a drug test until a job offer has been made. And the way you get around that at the initial, if we would like to hire you following this interview, are you prepared to take a drug test after this interview? And that's where the rubber hits the road. And person says, no, I'm not prepared. Test only takes, 4 minutes at the most. You were interviewing, it's common sense.
Yeah.
They're interviewing. If the interview goes over 4 minutes, are they going to say, gotta stop the interview? So, but yeah, this saves you time, it saves you money, it saves you aggravation. And I was also telling Stephanie that our company does background checks. I don't get heavy into that. You get background checks done here, 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 and here. It's pretty competitive everywhere you go. But don't dare pay for a background check until they pass the drug test. And every business I talked to that had a fair amount of employees are switching to this way. And Harris Rosen locally was probably the forerunner. He's like, we ain't paying for background checks until they pass the drug test.
Right.
But historically it was, here, go get your background check and drug test. And everything's paid for together. So that kind of keeps things a lot more thrifty and prudent for those watching the dollar.
It is important to note though, we do require background checks as well. So even if somebody passes their drug test, they can't necessarily start that day until we've completed a background check in
That's a good
the
point.
office. So it is possible that they could, if you're really pressed for people, sometimes we get results back like that. So as long as you can scan the thing over to us and we do that, it's just you do have to wait for us to say they're cleared and they can start before they actually can. So it is possible for that to be same day, but we need to do the background check first.
And every drug system, no drug testing system's perfect. You're always going to have somebody who cheats and gets away with it. And then you just hope that, like that fish net that has a hole in it, a few fish get through, that the next sweep of the net, you catch them. Last July, a company called me, Scott, I drug tested half a dozen guys, went in the restroom, I found a condom in the garbage pail. I was like, oh, well, nobody had sex in your bathroom, but let me tell you what happened. Somebody filled up the condom with clean urine and blah, blah, blah. So now she has reason to go back, reasonable suspicion or just cause, and retest those same 6 people. Because remember, we said don't flush the toilet. So I guess the guy could have put it in his pocket, but felt that was probably gross and not flush it on the toilet. They put it in the trash pail. Or else he probably would have successfully cheated. And then maybe catch him next test, whatever. But that's it. And I also say that I probably shouldn't open up this can of worms, but you've heard of the synthetic K2 spice, also Mojo with synthetic marijuana. Anybody not heard of it? You have a funny face like I haven't heard it.
Well, no. Did we talk about it before? Yeah, I've heard about it.
There's no tests for it right now. We started selling them about 2 years ago. It's like hitting a moving target. They keep on changing the chemical compounds to it. And about 8 months ago, they did a study of a store selling it. And they're called Scooby Snacks and everything, where you smoke this stuff that's supposed to mimic pot. Don't waste your time going online buying those. They're not reliable. 80% of the ones taken on the shelf no longer had the chemical compound, the same compound that was deemed illegal. They keep on changing it. It's not terribly different than some steroids and stuff that we test for. But again, if somebody's acting weird and then they test clean, remember K2 and spice and the mojo that won't appear, but it appears the person's on drugs. Get people to observe the person's behavior. If somebody is falling asleep on the job and the person tests clean, you know what? It doesn't matter if they test clean or not. You could fire them and find, oh, well, the reason you're falling asleep is you're working at night. Sorry, you can't work here on 2 hours of sleep. You're not alert enough. So don't think that a positive drug test is the end all. You know, it's your own observation. Somebody's doing K2 or spice, and enough people say, hey, this person's acting weird and flippant or misconduct. Document it. Even if they test clean, you can still get rid of them. You know, because we can't test yet for that. I don't think no.